Over the past 4 years, I have used a lot of different Chinese running shoes, including carbon plated racers, speed trainers, a few daily trainers here and there. And so I wanted to summarize that experience for you today into one video to give you a chance to try out some really high quality product for a lower price point, because we all know that things over here in the West are getting a bit out of hand. $360 to $400 here in Australia for racing shoes. Daily trainers approaching $280 to $300. Can be pretty tough to be a runner and burn through shoes. So yeah, I wanted to put together a video to help you navigate things safely, get some quality product, and kind of, yeah, give you what I would have liked to see when I was first starting out. We're going to start off with a bit of a run through of the actual platforms that you buy off and tips and tricks to do well there. And then I'm going to go through a run through of all of the different brands that I've tried, most of the models that I've tried out as well, and a few of my favorites in there too. So yeah, hopefully this is enjoyable. Highly encourage you to share this with mates if you know that they are not a fan of high price point shoes, because yeah, this could save you a little bit of cash. So starting off with the actual marketplaces that I use, two main websites which I have been rotating between. One is kind of taken over the other. So first off was AliExpress when I first started out, which is like a kind of Chinese version of Amazon. Big marketplace where sellers can come with their products shipped direct to consumer. I would say on the whole, AliExpress's price advantage versus the West is about 30 to 40% cheaper. So the equivalent super shoe for $360 to $400 in the West, you might get for $240, $250 over on AliExpress, if not cheaper, depending on the brand. And then daily trainers, you know, here it's $250, $260 in Australia. You might pick them up for $130, $140 over on AliExpress. AliExpress has been reliable. I've found I haven't had any real bad scams. I haven't had instances where my money's been sent off and I haven't heard anything back, and the refund policy is quick and usually pretty good. So far my experience there has been good, but that has been overshadowed most recently by taobao, which is next level. So taobao is like the Chinese version of AliExpress, completely in Chinese in their kind of characters, so you have to do a lot of auto translating to navigate it, but the price advantage is insane. So if AliExpress is about 30 to 40% cheaper, taobao would have to be 50 if not 60% cheaper for some models out there. Really cheap, and also pretty reliable too. Very quick on the refunds, haven't had any issues with scams, and if something isn't being delivered as fast as you want or it hasn't left the warehouse, yeah, refunds happen straight away. It's been pretty reliable so far. So I would probably say taobao, if you can go through the rigmarole of auto translating all of the Chinese writing and navigating it, learning how to purchase and refund and everything else like that, it can definitely be worth your time. But for most of you, AliExpress is probably going to be a quick, effective way to save, you know, 30 to 40% off on some great racing training and daily training shoes. Quick mention to scams and duds. There is going to be a potential that you could get scammed, but I do think there is a couple of things that you can do to make sure that you don't. First off, don't go and try buy Western brands on these marketplaces. You're going to see Super Blasts and Cloud Monster Hypers and other race shoes which come in at around $100 when they probably should be around $380 over here in Australia. They are all scams. I've bought one or two of them. They've come through, they look pretty good. They even feel pretty good underfoot, but when you weigh them and when you actually go for a run, it turns out that they're just firm, hollow EVA shells, and they're not actually the shoe that you were hoping for. So don't buy Western shoes on these marketplaces. That's going to be the first tip. And if possible, you should be buying from official marketplaces. So if you're going to buy a Li-Ning shoe, ideally buy it from a Li-Ning official store. Same with 361 Degrees, Xtep. A lot of these major brands have their kind of official marketplaces. That would be the way that I would recommend the most. But the other thing is making sure that they have the marketing graphic attached to the shoe. If the shoe appears by itself with just a kind of white wall behind it, or just being held in hand, a picture of, you know, just floating there, it's probably not the best indicator. But if they have the marketing with it, what the foam is, carbon plate, they have all of these graphics. I'll flash a few on screen. That's going to give you a much better chance of getting the official product, because they wouldn't be so ballsy to chuck it up if it was a fake. Don't buy Western brands off these marketplaces. Buy from official stores, look for the marketing graphics, and 9 times out of 10, more than 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time you're going to end up with a shoe which is going to be official and actually real, I guess. Another big tip is going to be around sizing. So you need to make sure that you get your foot size right in order to order the shoe size correctly, because there's obviously not an opportunity to try them on. Highly recommend working out your foot length in centimeters, because most of the size guides on there base their sizing directly on how long your foot is. So for myself, I know that I have a foot length of 27.5 centimeters. So when I go to order, I can look for either the 28 or 28.5 centimeter long option, depending on whether it's a racing shoe or a daily trainer. My experience so far has been that doing that sizing system has been pretty effective, but I would note that a few of these racing shoes do fit a half size long. So if you're someone who's really sensitive to having extra room ahead of the toes, there is going to be a few brands which are much longer than others, and I will point them out as I chat through them here. But overall, measure your foot, learn your actual shoe size, and then you should end up with the right size 9 times out of 10. What else? Oh, also keep an eye out for Chinese New Year, Black Friday sales. There's a kind of seasonal thing with AliExpress. I haven't been on Taobao long enough to really notice, but if you found a shoe which is still maybe a little bit too expensive, some of these other more official brands or bigger brands like Li-Ning and 361 Degrees, some of their shoes might still be sitting at 280 or 300. If you wait long enough, oftentimes they're going to drop down pretty quickly overnight by $40 or $50 at a time, which could be a good time to pick them up. So it's one of those things, a bit like Facebook Marketplace, where it pays to scroll every so often just to keep an eye on what's happening, and a few listings will pop up, often at a cheaper price point. Okay, we may as well start talking about some of the brands and models that I have enjoyed. We'll start off with Bmai, which was the first running shoe brand that I tried off AliExpress. The original 42K carbon was a personal favorite, snappy, punchy PEBA foam with a really sharp toe off. That's progressed all the way through to the 42K 3 Turbo. This has a supercritical PEBA foam. The other version of this shoe has an aliphatic TPU, so that's the difference if you find the two of them. Turbo is PEBA, standard is aliphatic TPU. It weighs in at 185 grams of my men's size 9.5, so this fits almost a full size long. 185 grams, it's snappy, it's punchy. It's not the most aggressive out there, definitely not a kind of Alpha Fly competitor, more of a kind of Deviate Nitro Elite 3 kind of space, but really, really fun shoe nonetheless. You can pick it up for around $200, if not cheaper, on Taobao. Highly recommend this. Bmai have another couple of speed trainers, some more accommodating marathon racing shoes, and a few really nice daily trainers too. So if you see Bmai, highly recommend them. They are a high performing brand as far as I'm concerned. Then we've got Li-Ning, which is pretty much the Nike of the Chinese running shoe world. They've actually made a little bit of a jump into the Australian market through Running Warehouse Australia, which is where I work in retail. So they released the Feidian lineup to the Australian market, which is the Challenger, a plated speed trainer, the Elite, which is their kind of standard marathon shoe, and then the Ultra, which is their big booming flagship marathon racing shoe. I have the Ultra 4, so this is the older version, and also the Challenger 5, which is the new version of their plated speed trainer. In my experience, all of their shoes have been really nicely performing. Challenger 5 could be the best speed trainer on the market right now. Top layer of softer PEBA foam, bottom layer of pelletized, firmer, more resilient stuff. Plate in the middle. This is extremely fast and smooth, but it does have a good deal of comfort as well, so you can use it for your daily training. This is pretty much the perfect all-rounder speed trainer that can actually run fast. You can pick it up for $130 to $150 around the place. If you're gonna buy a speed trainer from all of this list, I recommend it being the Feidian Challenger 5. The Ultra 5 is one that I'm not so keen on. I do like the ride. I think the ride is fantastic. Big booming rocket ship of a shoe, but for some reason the conversion in price points over into the West is not very favorable. Apparently they tried to match the Alpha Fly price for China because Nike is not a big fan of China apparently. So this comes across as $500 full price through Running Warehouse Australia, discounted down to around $360, which is pretty good, but there are better value shoes out there which you can give you a pretty good experience or a pretty similar experience for less. So Ultra is not going to be the main recommendation here. Challenger 5 is definitely stealing the show. Then we jump into 361 Degrees, which is another fairly big running shoe brand. I've tried a fair few shoes from them. That's probably going to be the one small note that I have to give on a couple of these brands, is that they do have quite convoluted lineups with a lot of different racing and speed models with overlap and similar names, and it's pretty hard to work out what shoe you're actually looking for. So that is something to note. If you're someone who likes that kind of clean cut racing, speed, daily, long run shoe, you're not going to have that with a lot of these Chinese brands. You're going to have to do a fair bit of navigating and look through the specs and the foams and the drops and everything else like that to try and decide whether the shoe is going to be good for the purpose that you want it to be good for, I guess, if that makes sense. So I reckon 361 Degrees probably have about 14 to 15 different shoes which are under the umbrella of speed and racing. Combine that with their daily trainers and long run shoes and a few trail shoes and everything else like that. They probably have like 30 to 35 different models underneath the umbrella of running. It is quite excessive, but the shoes that I've tried so far have been really nicely performing. We'll start off with the Furious 2, which is an aggressive mechanical 5 and 10K kind of paced racing shoe for me. Top layer of Piba foam, bottom layer of firmer, more resilient stuff, really aggressive geometry, nice snappy option for $150, $160, if not cheaper. Then we've also got the Flame 3, which has now been updated to the Flame 4, which I will update pretty soon, get a review on that. This is a Vaporfly style racing shoe with a beaded Piba foam, so a bit more resilient. I felt like it didn't bottom out as much as the Vaporfly or some of the, I guess, Hyperion Elite 4 PB. It's just got a nice, smooth, comfortable, natural feeling ride. Really enjoyed this one. Then we've got the Furious Future, which is the upgraded version of the Furious 2. So full midsole of their most resilient, bouncy Piba foam. It's nylon based, they call it. Feels like the same foam as the Flight Foam Turbo Plus in the Metaspeed Sky and Edge Plus, the one before the Paris. So very punchy, very resilient. Alpha Fly style ride. I would use this for 5, 10, half marathon. One of my favorite racing shoes, full stop. And then finally, we also have the 361 Degrees Miro Nude, which is their hyper light, what are we calling them? Hyper shoe. So 120 grams on my men's size 10. This is a really nice running experience. If you've watched my review, you know how much I love the kind of free flowing ride that this shoe offers with the kind of modern day super shoe bounce. The only thing to point out here is that the durability is not so good. I'm not expecting to get much more than 100 Ks out of this one. It's not going to be the best value if you buy it off AliExpress for $350, but if you can pick it up on taobao for 180, that's probably going to be where you get the best kind of performance to price durability ratio. Overall, 361 Degrees for me is probably going to be one of my top Chinese brands. Really like the technologies that they've got going on, particularly the Furious Future as a racing shoe. Jumping into the next brand, we have Xtep, which I would say is quite similar in kind of style to 361 Degrees. They have a fair few different racing shoes, all with a fair bit of overlap. Their top premier racing shoe is the 160 X6 Pro, which I have actually not been a big fan of. This is probably going to be one of the only shoes in here which I'm going to say I'm not that kind of keen on. I think this is a very firm, snappy, aggressive shoe, but so firm through the foam and through the plate that it just doesn't have much yield, meaning that I did get some pretty sore calves and didn't really feel like it was super assistive or super comfortable for the 2 sessions that I've done so far. I know there is a legendary 160 X Pro 3, and that is still floating around. It's so good that they've done a re-release, which is pretty cool to see. Would love to see them do that, you know, over in the West with the Alpha Fly, or, you know, people are calling for the original SC Trainer to be re-released. That's a pretty cool feature. So they do have that floating around, which might be the better option here. But my experience in the 160X 6 Pro has not been super flash, a little bit too harsh. And then I've only done one run in the 2,000 kilometer 3, which is marketed to last 2,000 kilometers. This has been fine, a kind of simple daily trainer. I'll get more thoughts out. Again, just wanting to show you that I've got this on the go if you're keen on more daily trainers opposed to speed and racing shoes. Quick shout out goes to Dynafish with the Danian 1, which is an 150 gram, $150 racing shoe. Extremely exciting with a supercritical Piba midsole, aliphatic TPU top layer on top of a carbon shank in the forefoot. So flexible through here, carbon shank running from about here onwards with this extended toe area. This is a fantastic running experience. Smooth, fast, fun with the bounce of a modern day super shoe, but just with that kind of weightless barefoot feeling. This is one of the most fun experiences that I've had. Can't recommend it enough. The only caveat is that it does come with quite a narrow fit, like very, very narrow. So if you have slightly wide feet, this is probably not going to work out. You can remove the inner sole, and that can give you a bit more volume, but overall it is extremely snug through this area here. If that gets fixed up, this will be pretty much unstoppable. I know they're coming out with a daily trainer pretty soon, which is going to be around 180 grams for a daily trainer in the sample size. So that is going to be extremely exciting as well. This is one of the new upstart brands. I think they're going direct to consumer rather than going through all of the marketing and all the other costs associated with running a brand. So that is very, very exciting to see. Next one I wanted to chat about is Chowdown. Now these guys get a bit of slack because they have a logo which looks like Michael Jordan, and that's probably fair enough. Chowdown, I think, translates to Jordan in Chinese. Whatever you want to think about the logo, their shoes are absolutely awesome. This is probably one of my top brands. I would say my experience so far is going to be between this, Dowin, and 361 Degrees in terms of the top performing models in racing and daily training. These guys have some fantastic technologies behind them. My first experience with them was with the PB4, so the Feidian, was it Feiying? I think it's the Feiying PB4. This is the updated version. This is a Vaporfly style competitor. TPEE foam, softer, smoother. It's probably not the most exciting out there. I would say it's probably a better idea to go for the plaid, but this is a good shoe if you like that Vaporfly style shoe. And then we have the plaid. So this is the big booming marathon racing shoe. The first version is still on sale at a good price point. This pretty much feels like an Adios Pro 4 before the Adios Pro 4 even existed. Soft, compliant TPEE foam. It's bouncy, it's resilient with a massive forefoot width. So if you're someone who struggles with stability, this is going to give you that big meaty response out there. Upper, it's quite reminiscent of maybe an Alpha Fly with the kind of booty style tongue. This is a fantastic shoe. Top 5 marathon racing shoes for me. Was threatening top spot for the Perth Marathon. Really, really enjoyed this. And the update now with a PEBA foam is set to be pretty good too. Haven't really used this for anything too serious other than 5x1K, so didn't get the best feel. I was a little bit sore on the day, but the lockdown here through the heel counter, the fit, the feel underfoot was definitely top level. So if you're looking for one of the better racing shoes out there, the plaid, both the 1 and the 2, definitely should be on your list. 2 others to mention, we've got the Chowdown HK Racer, which is their hyperlight kind of Evo Pro competitor. This is definitely more of a it's probably not even a 10K racer, probably just a 5K racer. Extremely stripped down, 110 grams of my men's size 10. Pretty much nothing to it. You can really feel the ground on toe off. The foam kind of thins out, but there is just nothing to this shoe, and it is a fun experience nonetheless. Durability is not going to be great, so I've done one 5K race in a session in this shoe, and I can already feel the carbon plate kind of sinking through the foam. So durability is not going to be key here, but if you can pick it up for cheap, I think $200 AliExpress, 150-ish on Taobao. That could be a fun experience if you're doing some track racing or track reps, or you just want the lightest shoe possible for a 5K. Final one is the Wind QTR 3, which is their daily trainer. This is a versatile, fun shoe, which I would almost put in the same category as an Evo SL. It feels like a supercritical foam, which I'm going to say is somewhat similar to a TPEE. A lot of their other Kung Fu Pro foams have been TPEE in the past, but I don't know whether that's something like Fuel Cell, where it doesn't really mean anything in terms of the compound. It's more just what the shoe is meant to feel like. So I'm going to say TPEE. It's got a good level of squish, a nice kind of rubbery bounce back. It's got a plastic shank in the middle to stop it folding in half. Well, it actually is still quite flexible. There you go. But it's fun, it's bouncy, 260 grams. It's quite versatile. This would be my top pick for daily trainer so far, after the limited experience in the other 2 from 361 Degrees and Xtep. You can pick this up for around $130, if not cheaper. This is a nice, fun, kind of all-rounder versatile daily trainer. Highly recommend the Wave QTR. Not Wave QTR, the Wind QTR. Okay, final stretch now. We're going to chat about the final brand which I've had experience in. Only came across it recently. It's Dowin. Now, I think that these guys don't have as much of a kind of outreach into the West, whereas like Li-Ning and 361 Degrees and Xtep starting to get involved with Western markets with basketball and running and other racket sports and everything else like that. Dowin to me seems to be a little bit more closed into China, I suppose. So I was pretty happy to find this gem of a brand. I have the Dowin PB3, which is one of their racing shoes. They're probably flagship marathon racing shoe. I think it's a TPEE foam. Feels like a combination of a Deviate Nitro Elite 3 and an Adios Pro 3. So a little bit more of a resilient foam, but a sharp toe off, smooth rocker. Fits long, so I would say almost a half size to a full size long. So half size down is definitely necessary. But other than the fit, this is an absolute beauty of a shoe. I would happily race a marathon in this one. It's smooth, it's fast, it's resilient. It's got that kind of meatiness to it. Really, really enjoyed this one. I've just picked up the update. And the best thing about these two shoes is that they're coming in for $130 to $150 on AliExpress, down to $80 or $90 on Taobao. So if you're after value, this is probably the best that you're going to get for a durable, fun, high-performing racing shoe. This one with some strides in it feels just as good as the 3. But yeah, both of these shoes, fantastic value if you're looking for it. I've also got the Speed Trainer alternative to the PB3, which I'm actually not sure what it's called, but this one's got a plastic plate in it, similar firmer tuned foam, which is also TPEE. This is snappy, this is fun. This is something that you can use for daily training as well. It's not too aggressive. So yeah, that's been pretty good. I've done 2 runs in this. Got a lot of shoes here which need some use, but I've just been so spread between a lot of different shoes recently. And then here's the pinnacle. Here is probably one of the best racing shoes that I own. It's the Dowin PB Pro, which is, I'm going to say, the best Evo Pro 1 competitor that I've tried out of all of these. So I got to try on a pair of Evo Pro 1s in the office of Running Warehouse. Just got to have a quick run around and see what it felt like. This is the closest thing that you're going to get to that. It's got that uncompressed TPEE midsole. It's kind of furry because it hasn't been compression molded. It's just been cut from a block of foam, and you can see the kind of fraying on the edge where it's been shaved down with some grinders. This is a brilliant, brilliant super shoe. I've done one section of 8Ks at threshold, so 5Ks at threshold broken into another 3K chunk. This was one of the best experiences that I've had in a running shoe. 160 grams, so not quite as light as the Evo Pro 1, but the kind of smooth, resilient, refined rebound that you get from this foam, the geometry is just beautiful. Absolutely love this one. This is going to be top priority when it comes around to marathon racing season again. I picked this up for $160. So Chinese brands are coming out with shoes which are as good as those top tier racing shoes from the West, but they're just putting them out for ridiculously low prices, which is just so cool to see. So this one was one that I could only get on Taobao. You're not going to be able to find it on AliExpress. So if you're chasing this kind of performance, if you're chasing the top level, it might be worth having a look through and trying to find some shoes on Taobao, even though it is a bit more work. Dowin is one of my top recommendations alongside Qiaodan, 361 degrees, but all of these have been pretty good other than maybe the 160 X6 Pro from Xtep. This is probably the one that I would say to maybe leave alone unless you really like that hard, aggressive, snappy racing shoe. But the rest of these have been a pretty good time. And yeah, that's probably all that I have to say so far about my collection of Chinese racing shoes. It's been a pretty fun experience over the past couple of years, experimenting and researching and working out which shoes have which technologies, and you know, working out that you can find some really good shoes for such low price points. Obviously, it's probably cost me more money than it's worth, but I think in the end, to be able to share that with you guys is, yeah, hopefully worth it. So share this with some mates if you think they're going to enjoy it. Get the word out because, yeah, there's going to be some awesome running experiences here which you could have for less money, which I think at the end of the day is kind of the point of shoe reviews, is to give people some cool experiences that they might not have tried out before. So yeah, that's my Chinese running shoe experience.